Sanjay Mansukhani from Kolkata. I am a teacher of Patanjali Yoga Sutras, and today we are going to discuss one of the most esoteric topics of the Yoga Sutras, the joining of nature and the soul and their separation into two independent entities. Yes, dear friends, we all know that yoga is a very ancient science from India. This ancient science has had one focus right from very ancient days, and that focus has been the removal of human sorrow. And over thousands of years, Indian yogis have done various experimentation, various research, and they have gone into the working of the mind to find out what is the true cause of human sorrow and how it can be removed. So about 3,000 years back, there was a very prominent sage called Kapila Muni. And Kapila Muni did research into various kinds of sorrow. And he came up with this theory of 25 tattvas of creation. And in this theory, he says that there are two permanent entities which creates this creation. And these two permanent entities are the soul and nature, or their Sanskrit terms are Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha can also be called the Atma. So dear friends, what happens when the soul comes together with nature? If there are two independent separate entities, then what happens when they merge, when they come together? The magical thing happens. Creation takes place. This creation, this existence, this Brahman, this universe gets formed. Yes, that is what Kapila Muni's theory of creation states. And his theory is part of Sankhya philosophy. Sankhya philosophy or Sankhya Darshan is India's first philosophy, first darshan. And Kapila Muni is considered to be the highest of Indian Munis. So Kapila Muni said, this creation happens when the soul, who is an independent, permanent entity, infinite entity, comes close to nature, to Prakriti, which also is a permanent, infinite entity. And then there's something which has not been defined either by Kapila Muni or by Patanjali in his Yoga Sutras or by any of the commentators, any of the yoga experts. Something happens there between the soul and nature, between the Purusha and Prakriti, and the creation comes. This creation, you can say, starts as a spark. And then it grows into a huge, big cloud of formlessness. And this big, huge cloud is called the Mahat. Mahat means the cosmic mind. So this cosmic mind is the first manifested part of the physical creation. This cosmic mind is first what came in this universe, in this cosmos. And this cosmic mind created the physical cosmos, created the whole universe, created the whole creation. And it is this Mahat, this cosmic mind, which is the cause of all sorrow. Because when the soul and nature, they merge, they come together, then two opposite, two different entities, tattvas, principles mix. And when they mix, there is a disbalance. To understand it, you can say the Purusha has a different set of qualities, and the Prakriti has a different set of qualities. The male energy has a different set of qualities. The female energy has a different set of qualities. The soul is changeless by nature, and nature is completely changeable by nature. So when they come together, when they mix and creation starts, the first thing which comes, as I told you earlier, is Mahat, and this Mahat is the cosmic mind, and this cosmic mind is the root of all sorrow in this existence. For understanding's sake, you see, we human beings today are facing the onslaught of the coronavirus, and we are taking a vaccine to ensure that we live, we don't die. Now, this vaccine is nothing but a small virus, a small dose, a very small dose of a virus. But then we come in a state of disturbance. Many of us feel body ache, others get fever, and medicines are required. So just by injecting a virus in a very small dose, which has been prepared under utmost care, and crores of people have taken that. Even then, by injecting a very small amount in our body fights it, and there is fever, and there is opposition in our system. So now imagine, let's say the male sperm enters the female ovum. Now the ovum is not ready for the sperm naturally. Ovum has its own characteristics, and the sperm has its own characteristics. And when they fuse, when they come together, when it gets fertilized, so there must be intense opposition inside the ovum to whatever has been injected into it, similar to what happens when we get a vaccine in our body. Now that is the birth of sorrow. There the balance of the ovum gets disturbed. And when the male enters the female, there is always a fight going on between the male and the female energies. This itself is the cause of sorrow. And to understand it even more better, even in a more deeper way, it is the soul and the nature, when they merge, when they fuse, the new entity which comes, as I said, is the cosmic mind. So the mind is a combination of nature and soul. Or in very simple terms, the mind is a combination of matter and consciousness. So on one side, you have Prakriti, which can be understood as pure matter. On the other side, you have the soul, which can be understood as pure consciousness. But when they come together, when they merge, they create the mind. And this mind has both entities. This mind has a portion of matter, and this mind has a portion of the soul. So here is where the conflict starts. And we must remember, what we have in this pure consciousness like matter is actually called a thought. So this thought is like a seed. And a seed, when given the right soil, the right conditions, grows into a tree and gives hundreds of more seeds. Similarly, a thought, when implanted in the mind, it grows naturally and it turns into sanskara. It turns into deep memories. And then it turns into karma. It turns into solid action. Action where? Action in the physical world outside. So a thought in the mind, a piece of impurity of matter in consciousness, leads to action in the world outside. Now, it is not only the action in the world outside, it also starts multiplying inside. I have heard an expert say that human beings tend to have 60,000 to 70,000 thoughts in a day. So when you have so many thoughts working in your mind, getting sedimented inside your mind, getting converted into sanskaras, into memories, getting converted into karma, into action, and that action is taking place in the physical world outside. So it is impacting your outer environment. And when it is impacting your outer environment, it is also impacting what you are taking in from the environment through the sense organs. And then it is creating new thoughts. And these new thoughts are again multiplying inside you. And they're again creating more memories and more karma and more impact on the outer world. So, dear friends, what we find is that this mind, which has come out of the fusion of nature and the soul, or Prakriti and the Purush, or in very simple terms, a combination of matter and soul, matter and consciousness is the mind. And this mind is the source of all sorrow. So once when we are able to remove this mind, we are able to remove all sorrow. Now, how do you remove the mind? The mind is a collection of number of thoughts. Some thoughts may be good thoughts, some thoughts may be not so good thoughts. So some thoughts can be constructive thoughts, and some thoughts can be unconstructive thoughts. Now, depending on the nature of thoughts, we have to act on them. So our purpose in life is to clean up all these thoughts. To begin with, the priority has to be on those thoughts which are unwanted, which are harmful, which are painful to us. And then to clean up those thoughts which are beneficial to us but have outlived their purpose. They have taken us to the destination they were supposed to take us and now are not of any further use to us. They are not of any further positive contribution to us. So they have to be removed. They have to be cleaned now. So this process of cleaning up the mind is what diffuses the mind, dissolves the mind, and the mind disappears permanently. When the mind disappears permanently, when the impurities of the mind disappear permanently, then why do I say that the mind disappears? Because mind is the mind only when it is a combination of matter and consciousness. If we are able to clean the consciousness, if we are able to clean the mind of matter, of thoughts, then we are left with pure consciousness. So this pure consciousness is back started from. You left with, you are left with a combination of matter on one side and pure consciousness on the other side. So this pure consciousness, which is coming out of a cleaning process, which is coming out of a purification process, which is coming out of filtering out unwanted thoughts and then non-beneficial thoughts till there are no thoughts left. That process is the process of yoga. Yoga means that naturally we are born, naturally we collect impurities in the mind because we are born with sorrow in the first place. We are born with unwanted thoughts in the first place. A baby, a newborn baby, is born with sorrowful thoughts. A newborn baby, when he arrives, the first thing he does, he cries. So his life is a life of sorrow. And all throughout life, you will find all human beings going through sorrow. Sorrow has three avenues by which it comes. Kapil Muni did a lot of inquiry into this, and he said, number one, sorrow can come from within you. So you suddenly remember something, and that memory puts you into despair. That memory puts you into stress. That memory gives you anxiety. That memory gives you fear. So then that is uh, a sorrowful experience because of the mind. The second reason for sorrow is when people outside start disturbing you, start sending you sorrowful experiences. It could be somebody in the family. It could be because of the father, the mother, the brother, the sister. It could be because of other beings. It could be because of the customers. It could be because of some people on the street. It could be because of some insects, some animals. A mosquito has bitten you. A snake has bitten you. So they can also cause sorrow. And another cause of sorrow can be because of nature. There is a flood and it affects you and it puts you into sorrow. There is a heavy storm. You suffer huge losses and you go into sorrow. So all these sorrowful experiences, whether they happen because of nature, whether they happen because of other beings, or whether they happen internally, all three of them have an impact on the mind. So mind is the place which goes into sorrow. And it will go into sorrow because the mind is a combination of both matter and consciousness. And this combination of matter and consciousness, this combination of Prakriti and Purusha, where it gets joined, where it gets connected, that portion is the cause of sorrow. And that portion, one can remove sorrow because sorrow is originating in thoughts. Sorrow is originating in experiences. Sorrow is originating in ideas. And these thoughts, ideas, experiences are getting stored in the memory. And what is getting stored in the memory as sanskaras are becoming action points. They are turning into karma in the world outside. So one can work on the mind in multiple ways. Patanjali has suggested that in order to clean the mind and remove sorrow and slowly clean the mind so that the mind becomes more and more pure till it becomes a pure consciousness by itself. So for that, there are certain methods which have been suggested by Kapila Muni and Patanjali. Kapila Muni has suggested that if you merely realize that mind is causing the sorrow and mind is the junction point, the connection point between matter and the soul, between Prakriti and Purusha. And then you focus your attention on the soul, you focus your attention on the Purusha, you meditate on the Purusha, you meditate on the fact that you are not the mind, but you are the Purusha, and the Prakriti is a separate entity. It is not part of you. Then you will find relief. Then you will find sorrow going away. And then you will find your awareness being present in the soul, in the Purusha. That will lead to soul realization. That will lead to Purusha realization. And that will lead to freedom from Prakriti. That will lead to liberation from matter. And that will lead to freedom of spirit from matter in totality. And never after that, the spirit will become fused into matter. The Purusha will become fused into Prakriti. The Purusha will be liberated. The Sanskrit term for liberation is called Kevalya. So the Purusha will now be in a state of Kevalya, state of absolute independence. So it is the mind which traps, and it is the mind which can give us liberation. And the methodology for that is to clean the mind. So one method which I told you was from Sankhya by Kapila Muni, that is to use knowledge that you are the Purusha, you are the soul, and you are not the Prakriti, you are not the matter. And then once you focus on this, you are able to separate the Purusha from the Prakriti, the matter from the soul. Patanjali is suggesting three methods for this. His first method for liberation is practice. He uses the word abhyas. He says, do abhyas. The more abhyas you do, the more practice you do, you will find your mind getting clean, purified of all gross substance, all material substance, and the mind will become free, the mind will become liberated, the mind will become in moksha, the mind will come in nirvana, the mind will come in kevalya. So that is what Patanjali suggests as the first method. Now, what abhyas, what practice is he suggesting to do? He says practice concentration, and practice concentration for long periods of time. Practice concentration without interruption. Practice concentration with a feeling of devotion. So when you practice concentration for long periods of time, without interruption, with devotion, you find your mind getting cleared up, your mind getting clean. Why does that happen? Because the mind is full of number of thoughts, hundreds of thoughts running in the mind. But when we bring our mind to one place, to one point, to one concentrated area, then we find the mind pulls back from other areas. So if the mind is there in 100 places, you bring it to one place, the mind leaves the balance 99 places. And once the mind, when it leaves those 99 places, the human brain also disconnects. So it stops giving energy to those 99 points. It stops giving oxygen. It stops giving blood supply, and all the oxygen, all the blood supply is rushing to the point, to the zone, to the area where you are concentrating. And that is a way by which you are cleaning the mind. You are removing those memories which are unwanted. You are removing those memories which are not needed. And you're bringing focus, attention, concentration, meditation to the mind. So this is one method. The second method, which he says, which is complementary to concentration, is vairagya. Vairagya means to detach yourself, to bring your mind nowhere. So, if your mind is up at 100 places, and if you are removing it from there, that is vairagya. That is detachment. So, concentration and detachment are complementary. What it means is, if you have to focus your mind on one subject, then you have to detach your mind from all other subjects it is focusing on or was focusing on. So concentration and vairagya go together. If you can concentrate well, then your vairagya is high, your power of detachment is high. If your power of detachment is high, then automatically your concentration power is high. Both of them go together, both of them are complementary. The third method, which is considered to be a very powerful method, is called Ishvara Pranidhana. When you are talking of Ishvara Pranidhana, then you are surrendering yourself to Ishvara. You are putting all your attention on Ishvara. And when you do that, then you find that Ishvara becomes the one-pointed area of attention. So Ishvara focus is another way of one-pointedness of the mind, of bringing the mind on one area, one power, and that power to which you bring your mind here, Ishvara is the source of all knowledge. So he has got infinite knowledge. Ishvara is the Adi Guru, the eternal Guru. So this Ishvara, who is the Adi Guru, who is the eternal Guru, starts passing on his knowledge to you. So when you start worshipping Ishvara, when you surrender to Ishvara, when you connect to Ishvara in bhakti, in complete bhakti mode, then that Ishvara starts growing within you with more and more power, with more and more knowledge. And as he keeps on growing with more and more power and more knowledge, he keeps on passing on his knowledge to you. So that knowledge is called divine knowledge. That knowledge is called pragya. That knowledge is also called intuition. Normally, the knowledge which we get is coming through our sense organs. These sensory inputs is worldly knowledge, because our sense organs are working in the world, picking worldly knowledge, bringing it inside, and once if they get noticed or experienced by the mind, then they get stored in the mind. But there are other sources of knowledge, and that is divine knowledge beyond space and time, and that only comes when you do Ishvara Pranidhana. So when you receive that knowledge, extrasensory knowledge, it gives you supernatural powers. It gives you mystic powers, and you are able to bring the mind to a very high state of purity, very high state of sharpness, very high state of intelligence, very high state of power and knowledge. And this is what again starts cleaning up the mind. And as the mind gets cleaner and cleaner, you become more and more of a pure consciousness. And then the mind, as such, because all the impurities have dissolved, there is no presence of matter, there is no presence of grossness, only the very subtle is now present. So this mind becomes pure consciousness. And once when it becomes pure consciousness, then the nature which was merged with Purusha, with the soul, they separate out. The Purusha becomes liberated from nature, from Prakriti. The Purusha, the soul, becomes liberated from matter. And then they become two independent entities again. So if you look at it, evolution is when you are moving, bringing the Purusha and the Prakriti together, they merge, they fuse, and the creation comes and you move out into the world, you move out into the universe. The physical universe happens. And the cleaning of the mind is a process where you're going back, where you're dissolving the existence, where you're dissolving the mind by cleaning up the mind. And as you keep on cleaning up the mind, purifying the mind, you find your mind becoming subtler and subtler and subtler, more and more purer. And as the mind becomes more subtle, more pure, it starts resembling pure consciousness. And as you go further, when it becomes absolutely pure consciousness, then all traces of Prakriti, of nature, of matter have come out of the mind. And now the mind is no longer existing as a mind, it is purely existing as a pure consciousness. The mind has dissolved. So once the mind dissolves, the whole creation dissolves, because the creation is perceived by us in the mind. And all sorrow is happening in the mind. And all sorrow is being triggered by the creation outside through the inputs coming through the sense organs. So once when we are able to dissolve the mind as a result of cleaning it up thoroughly, we find the outer creation also dissolves. So then what are we left with? We have no outer creation, nothing to be seen, no drashya, and there is no mind which can see. So the process of seeing also stops. Now what is left is only the seer, only the drashta, only the observer. And that is when yoga is said to have been completed. And that is when the Purusha is liberated out of Prakriti. And then both these entities exist again forever, for eternity. Prakriti which got dissolved, nature which got dissolved was the manifested nature, the evolved nature. But what remains is the Mool Prakriti, the primordial form of matter, the origin of the evolved universe, that remains. And that is so fine, that is so small, that is so, I would say, difficult to perceive, that it cannot be seen. So it remains unmanifest. Mool Prakriti, primordial matter, the original matrix of nature remains hidden, remains insignificantly small, beyond perception. So one, that Mool Prakriti remains, and second, the Purusha remains. Now the Purusha also is an entity who is eternal, who is permanent, who is infinite, and he also remains permanently. Now they don't come together and merge, they remain separate forever. And that is the state of Kevalya, that is the state of ultimate liberation, that is the state of absolute independence. Now both of them have come out of each other. When they got into each other, creation came. When they got out of each other, the creation dissolves. Now there is no creation left. And now they will again never merge, because this Purusha is an individual Purusha. For him, the manifested universe, the manifested creation has dissolved. Only the Mool Prakriti is left. But other people who are still there, the other Purushas, the other souls, for whom the universe is still manifest, they are able to see that universe. They are able to perceive that universe. So for them, the mind is still existing, because to see the universe, you need a mind. Mind is the tool of observation. Mind is the tool of seeing. But mind is also the tool of sorrow. Mind is also the cause of sorrow. So when Purusha and Prakriti come together, creation comes. But along with that creation, the mind comes. And mind helps you to see the creation, but mind also is the cause of sorrow. So this creation becomes a sorrowful experience. And the cause is the mind, and the cause is the creation. So once, if you are able to clean the mind beautifully, permanently, blemishlessly, then both of them separate. The Purusha comes out, the Prakriti comes out, the Prakriti goes back to its original state of primordial origin. The Purusha is independent, is out, and the creation dissolves. So there's no creation now. There is no mind now, because the mind has dissolved. And only these two entities independently, permanently exist forever. They do not come into each other again. So that means each Purusha can create with Prakriti, or each soul can create with nature a creation only once. And once it has been created, it is a creation, a universe in perpetuity. And the mind, if it remains, and the person dies, then the body dies, but the mind remains. This mind, which is the subtle part of the body, this transmigrates. It goes into the next body. So the mind moves ahead, and the body is dropped, the physical body is dropped, and again a new body is picked up, but the mind continues. So for the Purusha, the existence continues, because the mind continues. Mind is the instrument of watching this existence. But because the mind continues, so sorrow continues. And because this existence continues, the sorrow continues. And then it goes on. It may go on for thousands of lives. But when the time comes, when the mind is used to clean itself up, when all the impurities of the mind are removed, when all the thoughts in the mind are removed, when all the memories in the mind are removed, when all the action-taking capability of the mind is removed, then the mind dissolves. Then the mind has no purpose to serve. And once the mind dissolves, automatically the creation dissolves. And once both the creation and the mind dissolve, now the Purusha has permanently come out of Prakriti. Now the soul has permanently come out of nature. Now you can say the spirit has permanently come out of matter, and they do not merge again. It is just a one-time thing which happens, the Purusha and the Prakriti coming together and triggering a creation. So dear friends, we saw the coming together, the conjoining, the junction point is the mind. And if you are able to clean the mind, then the junction point gets cleaned up. They become free of each other, and that is liberation. And thank you extremely for being here in this talk, trying to understand this esoteric concept of the Prakriti and the Purush coming together and bringing about a creation, this esoteric concept of the soul coming together with the nature and creating a big cosmos, and along with it a mind, and how this mind becomes the source of sorrow, and how this mind allows us to see the creation. This creation exists because the mind exists. So once when we dissolve the mind by cleaning up process, then we find the existence also, the creation also disappears. Both of them are independent. Kapila Muni says the simple knowledge, this is what happens. And if you separate them mentally, then they actually separate out. And what Patanjali says in his Yoga Sutras, he says, use the power of concentration. When you concentrate, then this disengagement takes place. In samadhi, the mind disappears. So when you concentrate, you reach into the state of concentration, meditation, and samadhi. So as you are concentrating and going deeper, you are sort of filtering away the mind. And in samadhi, the mind disappears. So that is the technique he suggests. Second, he says practice detachment. When you practice detachment, you find that the mind gives up and the Purusha and the Prakriti come apart. And the third method he suggested was Ishvara Pranidhana. You worship Ishvara, you surrender yourself to Ishvara, use his divine knowledge to separate yourself, separate the Purusha and the Prakriti, the soul and nature. And second, when you are focusing on Ishvara with bhakti, you are actually effectively using one pointedness. You're bringing your mind to one point. You're actually practicing concentration of the highest level. And this also helps in disengaging what has come together because of formation of the creation. So, dear friends, that's it for me today. Thank you so much. God bless you. This is the way by which permanent happiness and permanent bliss can be enjoyed by disjoining of the Purusha and the Prakriti. And once you do that, once you learn the technique, then you can teach to your family members, you can teach to people of our society, you can teach to members of our country, and to people of the world at large. I hope and pray that we are able to achieve this. So these series of talks on yogic healing are being given with the intention that we are able to heal our world together with the ancient science of yoga. Thank you so much for being here. May God bless you with divine knowledge and much more. And thank you so much. And let me meet you tomorrow again, same time at 7 o'clock. Thank you. God bless you.